I don't know if y'all saw on the social media, On3 tweeting out that the Netflix, reported by The Athletic, Netflix is looking into doing a little Drive to Survive style documentary series following some SEC head coaches. So this isn't final yet, but if we were to get this, who are the head coaches that we would want to see on this doc series? Now, full transparency, I saw quarterback. I did not see Drive to Survive or Full Swing. I think quarterback is from the same people, if I'm not mistaken. If it's not, feels like a very similar premise. I would love to see Billy Napier featured on this. The storylines itself is like reason enough to want to see this show or see Billy Napier be a part of this show. Most high-pressure position in the SEC right now. Everyone's got something to say. From Steve Spurrier to Princely Umanmielen, who I don't think was trying to take a shot at Florida, but it kind of just ended up hitting the timeline that way. The Jaden Rashada situation is crazy. There's a lot of craziness happening this offseason around Florida. Brutal schedule. How does he handle that? To get a behind-the-scenes look at that and to see how he's dealing with all of the madness around him in a high-pressure spot in a big-brand spot like Florida, I think that would be phenomenal. That would be blockbuster. You could follow just Billy Napier this season, and I would watch. You could put it behind a paywall, and I would watch. Steve Sarkeesian, coming off of a college football playoff berth, I think you would have to follow Texas, like first year in the SEC, reviving this brand that is Texas. Can they sustain that success? How do you deal with that pressure? How do you deal with that kind of success? And as now everybody's gunning for Texas. There's no more talking points around, Texas, they're overrated. It's like, no, Texas is here, dog. Texas is here. And to be able to see how he operates in a meeting room, how he operates on the recruiting trail, how he operates on a game day, man. I mean, we've all seen that clip. We've all seen that clip of that. I think it's maybe a field operator who is leading Texas out of the tunnel and puts his hand on Sark. He didn't put his hands on Sark twice. I'll just say that, man. Intense dude. That'd be a lot of fun to see. Lane Kiffin, I think, Lane Kiffin not having a documentary series already feels criminal. Fascinating year for Ole Miss. Lane Kiffin obviously pushing the chips to the middle, going to the portal, landing Princely Umanmielen, who we already mentioned, landing Walter Nolan, going to work and adding Juice Wells at wide receiver, bring a lot of pieces back. Like it is playoff or bust for Ole Miss and co. And I think there's sort of this perception that like Lane Kiffin is really out there and really public, and it's like, yes, he's on Twitter, and he'll troll people and he'll tweet funny things, but like ultimately, you don't see Lane Kiffin doing a lot of sit-down interviews. We reached out to Ole Miss to try and get Lane Kiffin for a sit-down. It was like, hey, like we don't really do a whole lot of that. Like I think it's pretty much like if you're ESPN, you get Lane Kiffin. Outside of that, Lane Kiffin's not doing a whole lot of stuff that he doesn't have to do when it comes to sit-down video interviews. So he's actually a pretty private person. I don't say that to throw shade at Ole Miss or Lane Kiffin. I think it's phenomenal. But he's actually a pretty to-the-vest, calculated kind of person. So getting a full all-access look throughout the course of a season during a year for Ole Miss that is going to be, as highly anticipated as any other in Ole Miss football history, would be a lot of fun. Last one here, Kalen DeBoer. We've talked about him a few times on this show, but the story itself of following Nick Saban, the greatest of all time, I think would be worth a documentary series and definitely a documentary follow in this series if it ends up happening. First-year coach in the SEC. He's not from SEC country. How does he acclimate to the culture in the SEC and, to the barbecue, his first time trying that? Like, all that would be a lot of fun to follow. I would say this, though, too. If you did this documentary series, and if you've seen quarterback, Kalen DeBoer would come out of this thing being the Kirk Cousins of what he was to his documentary series. Meaning, like, Kalen DeBoer, I think, is such just a good human being. Not to say anything of the other guys I mentioned already on this list, but Kalen DeBoer, since we got to meet him in Tuscaloosa, just like normal, down-to-earth, great conversationally, nice guy, will give you his time, will give you thoughtful answers, like just a good dude, a very relatable dude. If you didn't know he was the head coach at Alabama and he wasn't wearing that gear, you would have no idea that this man is about to go run one of the most prestigious programs in all of college football. So, Kalen DeBoer, Lane Kiffin, Steve Sarkeesian, Billy Napier would be on my wish list if this doc series ends up happening. Netflix, let's get it done, baby, all right? Let's go. Let's get this thing done. Let's find a way to get this done. Hey y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.